My name is Zara Montgomery and I'm 23 years old. My mother, Rosa, was the housekeeper for one of the wealthiest families in Charleston, South Carolina. The Montgomerys. When I was born, my mother was working in their mansion, a sprawling estate with white columns and gardens that seemed endless. My father was Harrison Montgomery, the patriarch of the family. But nobody knew that. Not publicly. My mother kept the secret because Harrison was already married to a woman named Patricia. A cold, calculating woman who cared more about status than people. Harrison loved my mother. He told me so himself years later when I was old enough to understand. But he was trapped in a loveless marriage with Patricia, bound by business agreements and family expectations. When my mother got pregnant with me, Harrison promised to take care of us. He set up a trust fund, made arrangements, ensured we'd never want for anything. But he couldn't claim me publicly. Not without destroying his reputation and his business empire. So I grew up as Rosa's daughter. The maid's daughter. Living in the servants' quarters of the mansion. Watching my half-siblings, Patricia's children, live in luxury while I scrubbed floors and folded laundry beside my mother. Harrison visited us when he could. Secret moments in the garden or late at night. He'd hold me, call me his little star, and promise that one day things would be different. I believed him. Even when Patricia looked at me with disgust. Even when her children mocked me. Even when I had to serve them dinner while they laughed at jokes I wasn't allowed to understand. I believed my father loved me. And I held on to that. Growing up in that house was complicated. My half-siblings, Ethan and Caroline, were only a few years older than me. Ethan was arrogant and spoiled. Caroline was worse. She was cruel in subtle ways, the kind of cruelty that left no visible marks. They didn't know I was their half-sister. Nobody did except Harrison, my mother, and me. To everyone else, I was just Rosa's daughter. The help. Patricia made sure I understood my place. She'd snap her fingers when she wanted something. Never said please or thank you. Treated my mother and me like we were furniture. When I was 8, I asked my mother why we stayed. Why we lived in a house where we were treated so poorly. She held my face in her hands and said, "Because your father loves you. And because he's trying to make things right. We have to be patient." I didn't understand then. But I trusted her. School was hard. I went to public school while Ethan and Caroline went to private academies. They'd come home with stories about trips to Europe and designer clothes while I wore hand-me-downs and took the bus. But I studied hard. I got straight A's. I read every book I could find in Harrison's library when the family was away. Education became my escape. My way of proving I was more than what Patricia said I was. Harrison noticed. He'd leave books in my room with notes tucked inside. "Proud of you, little star." Those notes kept me going. When I was 16, my mother got sick. Cancer. Aggressive and fast-moving. Harrison paid for the best doctors, the best treatments. But it wasn't enough. She died 6 months after her diagnosis. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed, holding her hand as she took her last breath. Harrison was there too, crying silently in the corner. Patricia didn't come. After the funeral, Harrison pulled me aside. "Zara, you're not alone. I won't let you be." He meant it. He moved me from the servants' quarters into a guest room in the main house. Patricia was furious. "That girl doesn't belong in this part of the house," she hissed. Harrison stood firm. "She stays. Rosa worked for this family for 20 years. The least we can do is give her daughter a proper room." Patricia glared at me like I was an intruder. And in her eyes I was. From that day forward she made my life miserable. She'd introduce me to guests as the maid's daughter we're helping out of charity. She'd make me serve at dinner parties even though I wasn't staff anymore. She'd remind me constantly that I didn't belong. Ethan and Caroline followed her lead. They'd mock me in front of their friends, calling me Charity Case Zara. I endured it because I had nowhere else to go. And because Harrison kept telling me to hold on. "Just a little longer," he'd say. "I'm working on something." I graduated high school with honors and got a full scholarship to the University of South Carolina. It was my ticket out. I packed my bags and left the Montgomery mansion with relief. Finally, I could breathe. College was freedom. I studied business and finance, worked part-time at a bookstore and made real friends. People who didn't care that I grew up as the maid's daughter. People who saw me for who I was. I visited Harrison on holidays. He'd aged in the years since my mother's death. The stress of living with Patricia had taken its toll. We'd have lunch in the garden away from the house and he'd ask about my classes, my dreams, my life. "You've grown into an incredible woman, Zara," he told me once. "Your mother would be so proud." I asked him when he was going to tell the truth. When he was going to claim me as his daughter publicly. He looked sad. "Soon. I've made arrangements. When the time is right, everyone will know." I didn't know what that meant. But I trusted him. During my junior year, Harrison had a heart attack. I rushed to the hospital terrified. He survived, but the doctors said his heart was weak. He needed to reduce stress, take it easy. Patricia didn't care. She kept pushing him about business deals and social obligations. I watched her slowly kill him with her demands. I graduated college when I was 21. Harrison was there sitting in the back of the auditorium. Patricia and my half-siblings didn't come. After the ceremony, he hugged me tight. "I'm so proud of you, little star." He handed me an envelope. "Open this when you get home." Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note. "Start your life. Build your dreams. You've earned this." I cried. This man who couldn't claim me publicly had supported me in every way that mattered. I used the money to get an apartment in Charleston and start a small consulting business. I was good with numbers, good with strategy. Small businesses hired me to help them grow. Within a year I was making good money. I was independent. I was free. But I still visited Harrison. We'd have our garden lunches and he'd tell me stories about my mother. How they fell in love. How she was the kindest person he'd ever known. "I should have been braver," he said once. "I should have left Patricia and married your mother properly. I was a coward." I told him he wasn't. That he did the best he could in an impossible situation. He squeezed my hand. "You're generous, Sarah. More generous than I deserve." 6 months later, Harrison had another heart attack. This time he didn't survive. The funeral was massive. Hundreds of people came to pay respects to Harrison Montgomery, business magnate and pillar of the community. I sat in the back wearing a simple black dress, watching Patricia play the grieving widow. She wore designer black and dabbed at dry eyes with a handkerchief. Ethan and Caroline stood beside her looking bored. I wanted to scream. These people didn't love him. They tolerated him for his money. After the service, Patricia hosted a reception at the mansion. I wasn't invited. But I came anyway. I needed to say goodbye to the house where I grew up, where my mother worked, where my father had tried to love me in secret. I walked through the gardens, remembering all the times Harrison and I had sat there talking. A lawyer approached me. His name was Mr. Thornton. He'd been Harrison's attorney for 30 years. "Miss Montgomery?" he said quietly. I corrected him. "It's Zara. Just Zara." He smiled. "Actually, it's Miss Montgomery. Your father made that very clear. I need you to come to the reading of the will next week. It's important." I asked why I'd be included. He said, "Because your father wanted you there." That's all I can say for now. I felt a flutter of hope. Maybe Harrison had finally told the truth. Maybe his will would acknowledge me as his daughter. I thanked Mr. Thornton and left before Patricia could see me. The will reading was scheduled for the following Tuesday at Mr. Thornton's office. I dressed carefully. Professional. Respectful. Ready for whatever was coming. When I arrived, Patricia was already there with Ethan and Caroline. They looked at me with confusion. "What is she doing here?" Patricia demanded. Mr. Thornton said calmly, "Miss Montgomery is named in the will. She has every right to be here." Patricia's face turned red. "Miss Montgomery? Her name is Zara Rosa. She's the maid's daughter." Mr. Thornton didn't respond. He just gestured for me to sit. I took a chair across from Patricia and my half-siblings. The tension was suffocating. Mr. Thornton opened a thick folder and began reading. The will started with standard language. Then came the bequest. To Patricia, the mansion and a monthly allowance of $20,000 for life. She looked smug. To Ethan, $10 million and a position on the board of Montgomery Enterprises. He smirked. To Caroline, $10 million and the family vacation home in the Hamptons. She smiled. Then Mr. Thornton paused. And to my daughter, Zara Montgomery. Patricia interrupted. Daughter? What are you talking about? Harrison didn't have another daughter. Mr. Thornton looked at her calmly. He did. Zara is Harrison's biological daughter. Her mother was Rosa Rodriguez, who worked for this family for 20 years. The room went silent. Patricia's face turned white. Ethan and Caroline stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Mr. Thornton continued reading, his voice steady despite the chaos. To my daughter, Zara Montgomery, I leave controlling interest in Montgomery Enterprises. This includes 51% of all company shares, making her the majority shareholder and final decision-maker on all business matters. I stopped breathing. Controlling interest? Majority shareholder? Mr. Thornton kept going. I also leave to Zara the following: the Montgomery Family Trust Fund, valued at approximately $45 million, the downtown Charleston office building, the 3 investment properties in Atlanta, and my personal art collection. Patricia stood up, her chair scraping loudly. This is impossible. Harrison would never. Mr. Thornton cut her off. Mrs. Montgomery, please sit down. I'm not finished. She sat shaking with rage. He continued. Harrison also left this letter to be read aloud. He pulled out an envelope and began reading. To my family, by the time you hear this, I'll be gone. And it's time for the truth. Zara's my daughter. Her mother, Rosa, was the love of my life. I was too weak to leave my marriage, too afraid of scandal to claim Zara publicly. That was my greatest regret. Patricia let out a strangled sound. The letter continued. I watched Zara grow up in the shadows of my house. Watched Patricia and my other children treat her with cruelty and disdain. Watched her endure it with grace I never possessed. She earned every dollar I'm leaving her through her character, her intelligence, and her strength. Ethan leaned forward. This can't be legal. We'll contest it. Mr. Thornton looked at him. You can try. But Harrison had DNA tests done years ago, notarized and filed with the courts. Zara is legally recognized as his biological daughter. This will is ironclad. I sat there stunned as my entire world shifted. After the will reading, Patricia stormed out without a word. Ethan and Caroline followed, both glaring at me. I stayed seated, trying to process what had just happened. Mr. Thornton sat down beside me. I know this is overwhelming. I asked if it was real. If I really owned controlling interest in my father's company. He nodded. Yes. Harrison started planning this 5 years ago. He wanted to make sure you were taken care of. And he wanted you to have control so Patricia couldn't destroy what he built. I asked why he never told me. Mr. Thornton smiled sadly. He wanted to. But he was waiting for the right time. He didn't want Patricia to make your life worse while he was alive. He thought this way you'd be protected. I felt tears forming. My father had been protecting me even after death. Mr. Thornton handed me a folder. This contains all the information you'll need. Bank accounts, property deeds, business documents. You'll also need to attend a board meeting next week. As majority shareholder, you're now effectively in charge. I asked if I was qualified. If I knew enough. He looked at me seriously. Harrison believed you were. He told me you were smarter than Ethan and Caroline combined. And from what I've seen of your business consulting work, he was right. I left that office feeling like I was floating. Everything had changed in an hour. I wasn't the maid's daughter anymore. I was Harrison Montgomery's heir. And I had power. The next few days were chaos. News of the will spread quickly. Society pages ran headlines. Montgomery fortune goes to secret daughter. Socialite Patricia Montgomery loses empire to unknown heir. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters. Distant relatives I'd never met. People from high school suddenly wanting to reconnect. I ignored most of them. But I couldn't ignore Patricia. She showed up at my apartment 3 days after the will reading, pounding on my door. I opened it cautiously. She looked haggard. Desperate. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into my apartment. I closed the door and crossed my arms. What do you want? She turned on me, her voice shaking with rage. What do I want? I want what's rightfully mine. That company, that money, it should go to my children. Not some maid's bastard. I stayed calm. According to the law and Harrison's will, it's mine. She stepped closer. You don't deserve it. You didn't grow up learning how to run that business. You don't know anything about our world. I asked if she was finished. She wasn't. I'm offering you a deal. Sign over controlling interest to Ethan. We'll give you $10 million and leave you alone. I almost laughed. You think I'd give up what my father left me for $10 million? She sneered. You should. Because if you try to run that company, we'll destroy you. We'll make sure everyone knows you're nothing but a gold digger who seduced a dying old man. I opened my door. Get out. She didn't move. I repeated louder, get out of my apartment. She left, but not before saying, this isn't over. The board meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. I spent the weekend preparing, reading reports, studying financials, understanding every aspect of Montgomery Enterprises. The company was massive. Real estate development, commercial properties, investment portfolios. Worth over $200 million. And I owned 51%. Monday morning, I dressed in my best business suit. Navy blue, professional, powerful. I walked into the Montgomery Enterprises boardroom like I owned the place. Because I did. 12 board members were already seated. All men except one woman. They looked at me with curiosity and skepticism. Ethan was there too, glaring at me from across the table. Mr. Thornton was present as legal counsel. He gave me an encouraging nod. The chairman, a man named Douglas Hartwell, spoke first. Miss Montgomery, while we acknowledge your legal right to be here, we have concerns about your lack of experience. I sat down at the head of the table. The seat my father used to occupy. What concerns specifically? Douglas shuffled papers. You're 23. You have no corporate experience. You've never worked in real estate or development. I asked if he was finished. He nodded. I said, I graduated with honors in business and finance. I've run my own consulting firm successfully for 2 years. I've studied every report from the last 5 years of this company's operations. And I'm a Montgomery. This is my legacy. I'm not going anywhere. Ethan scoffed. This is ridiculous. You can't seriously think you can run this company. I looked at him. I can. And I will. Unless you'd like to challenge the will. He shut up. I turned to the board. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to review current projects. Then we're going to discuss strategy. And you're all going to help me understand how this company works. Because like it or not, I'm in charge now. The meeting lasted 3 hours. I asked questions. Lots of them. About projects, investments, partnerships. Some board members were helpful. Others were condescending. But I held my ground. By the end, I'd made it clear I wasn't some naive girl they could push around. After the meeting, the one female board member approached me. Her name was Victoria Chin. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. You did well in there, she said. Thank you. She smiled. Your father talked about you. He said you were brilliant. I see he was right. I asked if she knew about me before the will reading. She nodded. Harrison confided in me years ago. He trusted me. And he wanted me to help you when the time came. I felt relief. Now she continued, Patricia is going to fight you. She's already spreading rumors that you manipulated Harrison. That you're incompetent. You need to be prepared. I told her I was. She looked doubtful. Are you? Because this world is brutal. They'll tear you apart if you show any weakness. I met her eyes. I grew up in Harrison's house being treated like I was worthless. I've endured worse than anything these people can throw at me. She smiled. Good. You'll need that steel. Let's get coffee. We have a lot to discuss. Over the next weeks, Victoria became my mentor. She taught me about the business, introduced me to key players, helped me navigate corporate politics. She also warned me about Patricia's schemes. She's trying to turn the other board members against you. Planting seeds of doubt. You need to prove yourself quickly. 2 months into my role, I identified a major problem. One of Montgomery's biggest projects, a luxury condo development, was over budget and behind schedule. The project manager was a man named Keith Porter. He'd been with the company for 15 years. I called a meeting with him and the construction team. Keith walked in confident, almost arrogant. He clearly didn't take me seriously. What can I do for you, Miss Montgomery? I pulled up the project financials on the screen. You can explain why this project is $2 million over budget and 6 months behind. He shrugged. Construction is unpredictable. These things happen. I zoomed in on specific line items. These things happen, or you've been inflating costs and pocketing the difference. His face went red. That's a serious accusation. I handed him a folder. These are receipts from our suppliers. They show what we actually paid versus what you reported. The difference is nearly $800,000. The room went silent. Keith stammered. There must be some mistake. I said calmly, the only mistake was thinking I wouldn't notice. You're fired. Security will escort you out. He tried to argue. I cut him off. Leave now or I call the police and press charges for embezzlement. He left. The construction teams stared at me with new respect. I promoted the assistant project manager to lead and gave him a clear mandate. Finish on time and on budget or he'd be next. Word spread quickly. The new boss wasn't playing games. Patricia heard about Keith's firing. She called an emergency board meeting claiming I was acting recklessly. The board gathered. Patricia sat in as a major shareholder, even though she didn't have voting control. My husband built this company on loyalty, she said. Firing Keith Porter, a 15-year employee, without consulting the board is inappropriate. I asked if she'd seen the evidence of his embezzlement. He waved it off. Alleged embezzlement. You're too quick to judge. I pulled up the financial records on the screen. These aren't allegations. These are facts. Keith stole nearly $1 million from this company. Should I have kept him because of loyalty? Douglas Hartwell spoke up. Patricia, I've reviewed the evidence. Zara made the right call. Patricia glared at him. Of course you'd side with her. Victoria jumped in. This isn't about sides. It's about protecting the company. Zara identified fraud and dealt with it decisively. That's good leadership. Patricia stood up. This is absurd. A girl with no experience is making major decisions and you're all just going along with it. I stood too. I'm not a girl. I'm the majority shareholder. And if you have a problem with how I'm running this company, you're welcome to sell your shares and leave. She looked stunned. No one had ever talked to her like that. I continued, I'm cleaning up the mess people like Keith created. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem, not mine. The board voted to support my decision. Patricia stormed out. But I knew this wasn't over. That night I got a call from Caroline. That was unexpected. We need to talk, she said. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived first, ordered coffee and waited. Caroline walked in looking nervous. She'd always been the mean girl following Patricia's lead. But today she looked different. Smaller. We sat down. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. I want to apologize, she said finally. I stayed quiet. She continued, for how I treated you growing up. How we all treated you. It was cruel. You didn't deserve it. I asked what changed. Finding out you're my half-sister. Finding out Dad loved your mom. It made me question everything. She looked up at me. I always thought Dad loved me. But when I read that letter when he said your mom was the love of his life, I realized he never loved our mom. Maybe he didn't love us either. I told her that wasn't true. Harrison loved you and Ethan. He just loved my mother differently. She wiped her eyes. Mom is furious. He's planning something. I don't know what. But she's talking to lawyers, making calls. I thought you should know. I asked why she was warning me. Because you're my sister. And because I'm tired of being like Mom. We talked for another hour. About our childhood. About Harrison. About the future. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. As she left, she said, be careful. Mom doesn't lose gracefully. Caroline's warning proved accurate. 2 weeks later, Patricia filed a lawsuit challenging the will. She claimed Harrison was mentally incompetent when he drafted it. That I'd manipulated him. That the will should be thrown out and his estate divided according to state law, giving her and her children larger shares. Mr. Thornton called me into his office. This is expected. We prepared for it. I asked how strong her case was. Weak. We have medical records showing Harrison was of sound mind. We have testimony from doctors, from me, from Victoria Chin. And we have the DNA evidence proving you're his daughter. He paused. But it'll be ugly. Patricia will drag your name through the mud. She'll bring up your mother, make accusations, try to paint you as a gold digger. I took a breath. Let her try. I know the truth. Harrison knew the truth. That's what matters. The lawsuit made headlines. The media had a field day. Montgomery family at war over billions. I stopped reading the articles. Stopped watching the news. I focused on work. On proving I could run the company. On building my own legacy. Victoria checked in daily. How are you holding up? I told her I was fine. She didn't believe me. It's okay to not be fine. This is a lot. I admitted I was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving myself. He squeezed my hand. Your father fought his whole life for you. Don't give up now. I wouldn't. I couldn't. While the lawsuit dragged on, I continued making changes at Montgomery Enterprises. I identified 3 more projects that were mismanaged or fraudulent. I restructured departments, promoted talented people who'd been overlooked, and fired executives who'd been coasting on connections rather than competence. The company started running better. Profits increased. Projects finished on time. The board noticed. Even the skeptics started coming around. Douglas Hartwell approached me after one meeting. I owe you an apology. I didn't think you could do this. I was wrong. I appreciated his honesty. Thank you. He continued, your father would be proud. You're not just maintaining his legacy. You're improving it. That meant more than he knew. But Patricia wasn't done. When the lawsuit wasn't moving fast enough, she went public. She gave an interview to a major newspaper, painting me as a manipulative opportunist who'd seduced her elderly, vulnerable husband. The article was vicious. It called my mother, the maid who got pregnant to trap a wealthy man. It suggested I'd known about the will and had deliberately isolated Harrison to influence him. I wanted to scream. To sue for defamation. But Mr. Thornton advised against it. Responding gives it oxygen. Let it blow over. Victoria disagreed. No. People need to hear your side. She arranged an interview with a sympathetic journalist. I told my story. All of it. Growing up in the servants' quarters. Being treated like I was invisible. Watching my mother work herself to exhaustion. Harrison's secret visits. The way he tried to love me while trapped in an impossible situation. The article ran with the headline, The Secret Daughter, Zara Montgomery's Story. Public opinion shifted. People saw Patricia for what she was, cruel and vindictive. Sympathy swung to my side. The lawsuit went to court 6 months after Patricia filed it. I sat in the courtroom watching lawyers argue about my father's mental state, my mother's character, and my worthiness to inherit. Patricia's lawyer was aggressive. Harrison Montgomery was a sick, dying man when he changed his will. He was under the influence of pain medication and emotionally vulnerable. Mr. Thornton countered with medical records. Harrison underwent psychiatric evaluations specifically to ensure he was competent. 3 separate doctors confirmed he was of sound mind. Patricia's lawyer brought up my mother. Rosa Rodriguez worked as a maid. She had intimate access to Harrison Montgomery. Isn't it possible she manipulated him? Mr. Thornton stood up. Rosa Rodriguez died 7 years before Harrison drafted this will. She could hardly have manipulated him from beyond the grave. The courtroom murmured. Mr. Thornton continued, the truth is simple. Harrison Montgomery had a daughter he couldn't publicly acknowledge due to societal pressures and his marriage. When he knew he was dying, he finally did the right thing. He claimed her. He provided for her. And he ensured she'd be protected. He presented evidence. Photos of Harrison and me together over the years. The books he'd given me with notes inside. Letters he'd written but never sent. The DNA test proving I was his daughter. By the end of the trial, Patricia's case had crumbled. The judge ruled in my favor. The will stood. I was legally Harrison Montgomery's daughter and heir. Patricia was ordered to pay court costs. As we left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Patricia pushed through them without comment. I stopped and made a statement. Harrison Montgomery was my father. He loved me. And I'm going to honor his legacy by running Montgomery Enterprises with integrity and excellence. Thank you. That night I went to Harrison's grave alone. I sat on the grass and talked to him like I used to in the garden. We won, Dad. Your will stood. I'm safe. I felt like he was there. Proud. After the trial, things settled into a new normal. I was officially recognized as Harrison Montgomery's daughter. The CEO of Montgomery Enterprises. A businesswoman in my own right. Patricia moved out of the mansion. She tried to stay, claiming it was her home, but the will stipulated she only had life rights if she remained civil. Her lawsuit violated that clause. Mr. Thornton politely but firmly evicted her. She moved to the Hamptons with Caroline. Ethan stayed in Charleston but avoided me. He'd sold his shares in Montgomery Enterprises and started his own business. Word was it wasn't going well. I didn't take pleasure in that. I just focused on my own work. 1 year after Harrison's death, Montgomery Enterprises had its best quarter in 5 years. We'd completed 3 major projects, opened 2 new developments, increased profits by 30%. The board threw a celebration. Victoria gave a toast to Czar Montgomery, the leader we didn't know we needed. Everyone raised their glasses. I felt proud. Not because of the money or the power, but because I'd proven I could do this. I'd earned my place. After the celebration, I drove to my old neighborhood, the one where my mother and I had lived before Harrison moved us into the mansion. Small houses, working-class families. I'd started a scholarship fund for kids from that neighborhood. Full rides to college for students who showed promise but didn't have resources. I called it the Rosa Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship. My mother's legacy would help others the way Harrison's helped me. I was building something bigger than myself. Something that would last. 2 years after Harrison's death, I got an unexpected visitor. Trisha. She showed up at my office looking smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. My assistant buzzed me. "Mrs. Montgomery is here to see you." I almost said no. But curiosity won. Send her in. She walked into my office slowly. We sat across from each other, the desk between us. She spoke first. "I'm not here to apologize. I still think you're a gold digger who stole what should have been my children's." I stayed calm. "Then why are you here?" She looked down. "Because I need help. Caroline is sick. She needs surgery. Very expensive surgery. My funds are running low." I asked what kind of surgery. "Heart condition. Genetic." She got it from Harrison's side of the family. I felt a pang. Caroline was my half-sister. Despite everything, Patricia continued, "I'm asking you as someone who shares blood with my daughter to help her." I studied her. This woman who'd made my life miserable. Who called my mother a whore. Who tried to destroy me in court. And she was asking for help. I asked how much she needed. $500,000. I told her I'd think about it. She stood to leave, then turned back. "I know I was cruel to you. To your mother. But I was jealous. Harrison loved Rosa in a way he never loved me. I took that out on you. It was wrong. It wasn't a full apology. But it was something. After she left, I thought about what to do. Caroline had reached out to me after the will reading. Had warned me about Patricia's lawsuit. Had tried in her own way to be a sister. I called Mr. Thornton. "Can you draw up papers for a medical trust for Caroline Montgomery?" He asked if I was sure. I was. I set up a trust to cover Caroline's medical expenses. Not through Patricia. Directly to the hospital and doctors. I wanted to make sure the money went where it was supposed to. When Caroline found out, she called me crying. "Zara, you didn't have to do this." I told her she was my sister. Blood matters. Even when families are complicated. She asked if we could meet. We had lunch at the same coffee shop where she'd warned me about Patricia's plans. She looked thin, scared. "The surgery is next month. They say there's a 90% success rate, but I'm terrified." I held her hand across the table. "You're going to be fine." She asked why I helped her after everything. Because Harrison would have wanted me to. And because you tried to do the right thing when it mattered. She cried. "I wish I'd done more. I wish I'd stood up to Mom. Treated you better." I told her we couldn't change the past. But we can choose what we do now. She recovered well from the surgery. And after that, we started building a real relationship. Lunch once a month. Phone calls. Getting to know each other as sisters, not enemies. Ethan took longer. He was proud, stubborn. But eventually even he reached out. We met for coffee. He didn't apologize. But he acknowledged what happened. I was an entitled jerk. I thought I deserved everything because of my last name. "You showed me I was wrong." I asked what he was doing now. Small real estate projects. Nothing like Montgomery Enterprises. But I'm learning. Actually working for once. I respected that. Maybe he was growing up. 3 years after Harrison's death, Montgomery Enterprises had tripled in value. We'd expanded into new markets, acquired smaller companies, and built a reputation for ethical business practices. I'd become known in Charleston not as the Maid's daughter, but as a successful businesswoman in my own right. I was invited to speak at business conferences, join charity boards, and participate in city leadership. People who once looked down on me now sought my advice. One evening, I attended a gala for the Rosa Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship Fund. We'd grown it significantly. Now we were funding 50 students a year. At the gala, I gave a speech. My mother, Rosa Rodriguez, worked her whole life to give me opportunities she never had. She cleaned houses so I could go to school. She endured disrespect so I could dream bigger. This scholarship honors her memory by helping other families like ours. The audience applauded. After the speech, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 19 with nervous eyes. "Miss Montgomery, I'm one of your scholarship recipients. I just wanted to thank you. I'm the first person in my family to go to college." I hugged her. "Make the most of it. And when you succeed, help someone else." She promised she would. That was when I realized I'd done it. Not just inherited money, but built something meaningful. Something that would outlast me. That night I went to the cemetery again. To Harrison's grave. "I did it, Dad. I built the legacy you wanted. Not just the company, but something bigger." I placed flowers. "I wish you could have claimed me while you were alive. But I understand now why you couldn't. You were protecting me in the only way you knew how." I paused. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful." The wind rustled through the trees. I felt at peace. Last month, Victoria Chin retired from the board. She threw a party at her house and I was the guest of honor. During her speech, she said something that stuck with me. When Harrison first told me about Zara, I was skeptical. Not of her character, but of whether she could handle this world. It's brutal, especially to women, especially to those who come from nothing. She looked at me. But Zara proved me wrong. She didn't just survive this world. She changed it. She brought ethics back to Montgomery Enterprises. She showed that success and compassion aren't mutually exclusive. After the party, Victoria and I sat on her porch. "What's next for you?" she asked. I told her I'd been thinking about that. "I want to expand the scholarship fund nationally. Help more kids like me." She smiled. "Your father would love that." I asked if she thought Harrison would be proud of how I'd handled everything. He didn't hesitate. He already was proud. "Long before you inherited anything." He told me once, "Zara is proof that greatness has nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with character." I felt tears forming. I miss him. I wish he could see what I've built. He squeezed my hand. He can. And he's proud. I know it. Today I'm 26 years old. It's been 4 years since Harrison died and left me everything. 4 years since Patricia called me, the maid's daughter, in front of a room full of lawyers and board members. 4 years since my world changed completely. Montgomery Enterprises is now worth over $500 million. We employ 3,000 people. We've developed affordable housing projects alongside luxury condos. We've invested in sustainable building practices. We've become a model for ethical business. I still work out of Harrison's old office. I kept his desk, his chair, his photos. Sometimes I feel his presence like he's watching over me. The Rosa Rodriguez Memorial Scholarship has helped over 200 students. Some have graduated and come back to work for Montgomery Enterprises. Others have started their own businesses. One became a doctor. Another a teacher. My mother's legacy lives on through them. Caroline and I have lunch every week. She's healthy now, happily married and working as an art curator. She's found her own path. Ethan and I are cordial. We'll never be close, but we're not enemies. He's learned humility the hard way and I respect his efforts to build something on his own. Patricia moved to Europe. I heard she married a wealthy Italian businessman. We haven't spoken since the day she asked me to help Caroline. I'm okay with that. Some relationships can't be repaired. And that's fine. I've built new relationships. With Victoria, who became like a mother to me. With my team at work, who respect me for what I've accomplished. With the scholarship recipients who remind me why I do this work. Last week I received a letter. It had been found in a safe deposit box Harrison had rented under a false name. Mr. Thornton called me to his office to give it to me. Harrison left instructions that this letter should be delivered to you on your 26th birthday. I opened it with shaking hands. The letter was written in Harrison's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Zara, my little star, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you've survived the storm I knew would come when the truth came out. I'm sorry I couldn't claim you publicly while I was alive. I'm sorry you had to endure Patricia's cruelty, Ethan and Caroline's dismissiveness and society's judgment. I'm sorry I was a coward. But I want you to know something. You were never just the maid's daughter. You were always my daughter. My pride. My joy. Your mother was the love of my life and you were the greatest gift she ever gave me. Watching you grow from that little girl in the garden to the brilliant woman you've become has been my honor. I knew you'd face challenges after I died. That's why I gave you controlling interest in the company. Not because of obligation, but because I knew you could handle it. I knew you'd be a better leader than I ever was. You have your mother's kindness and my business sense. You have integrity I never possessed. You have strength I could only admire. By now you've probably proven everyone wrong. You've probably built something remarkable. I wish I could be there to see it. But I'll be watching from wherever I am, proud beyond words. Remember, you were never defined by how others saw you. You were always exactly who you were meant to be. Perfect. Worthy. Of. Thank you for being my daughter. Thank you for forgiving me for not being brave enough to be your father publicly. Thank you for being you. With all my love, Dad. I cried. Right there in Mr. Thornton's office, I cried like I hadn't cried since the funeral. Mr. Thornton handed me tissues and gave me privacy. When I finally composed myself, I called Caroline. Want to have dinner tonight? He said yes. I called Ethan too. He hesitated but agreed. We met at a restaurant downtown. The three of us. Harrison's children. We didn't talk about the past. We talked about the future. About keeping Harrison's memory alive. About maybe working together on a charity project. About being siblings finally. It wasn't perfect. We had years of hurt to work through. But it was a start. That night I went home to my condo. The one I'd bought with my own money. The one that overlooked the harbor. I stood on my balcony looking out at the water holding Harrison's letter. I did it, Dad, I whispered. I proved them all wrong. I built something you'd be proud of. And I did it my way. With honor. With kindness. With the strength you saw in me. The wind carried my words out over the water. I imagined Harrison hearing them. Smiling. My stepmom told everyone I was just the maid's daughter. She used it as an insult. As a way to diminish me. To put me in my place. But she was right about one thing. I am the maid's daughter. Rosa Rodriguez's daughter. And I'm proud of that. Because my mother taught me that dignity isn't about money or status. It's about character. It's about how you treat people when no one's watching. It's about working hard even when no one appreciates it. It's about loving fiercely even when it's difficult. I'm also Harrison Montgomery's daughter. And he taught me that legacies aren't built on money. They're built on the lives you touch. The people you help. The changes you make. Patricia thought calling me the maid's daughter would hurt me. Instead, it reminded me of everything I am. Strong. Resilient. Worthy. Everything they said I wasn't. The will proved who I was legally. But I proved who I was through my actions. Through building a company that values people over profits. Through creating opportunities for kids like me. Through showing that where you come from doesn't determine where you go. My name is Zara Montgomery. I'm the daughter of a housekeeper and a business magnate. I'm the sister of two people who once despised me and now call me family. I'm the CEO of a $500 million company. I'm the founder of a scholarship fund that's changing lives. And I'm exactly who I was always meant to be. Not despite my circumstances, but because of them. Patricia wanted to see whose name was on the will. She found out. It was mine. But the real victory wasn't inheriting money. It was inheriting my father's belief in me. And proving he was right to believe. That's the legacy I'm building. Not one of wealth. But one of worth. And that's something no one can ever take away.